Oh, hello. My name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. Okay guys, so we've got another challenge and vlog coming at you today. So this is me in the past, not sure how this is gonna go. I'm setting up the challenge today and I haven't acquired any of the books. Well, sort of-ish, we'll talk about it. But this is like me at the very beginning of this challenge. What is this challenge, you may be asking? But you've already seen the title of the video, so you know. This is my Booktubers Pick My TBR challenge. Now, this is an idea I've had for quite some time, and I thought, basically the kind of thought was, what would happen if I allowed some of my fellow booktubers, some of my fellow content creators, to just pick any book that they wanted me to read, and like, I had to read it no matter what it was. And I kind of have been putting it off just because logistically I was like, ugh, I need to like write some emails or like get in touch with people, and that just sounded stressful. But I was in a chat with Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany, Liene from Liena's Library, and Amanda from The Naughty Librarian, and it came up, we were basically talking about like forcing Liene to read something, and I was like, oh, actually, I have wanted to do a challenge where people force me to read things. Why don't the three of you just be my sample size and you three can be the ones who will pick my TBR? And so the prompting I gave to them was, you can either give me something that you love, you can give me something that you think I will love, or you can be mean and just like make me read something just to make me read it. So they had full range. I gave them no further prompting beyond that and said, just like, do what you will. It was interesting to see how the three of them approached this. So Liene immediately, she like literally, it was just right away said, oh, well, you have to read The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. This was not a surprise because Liene absolutely loves that series. She talks about it constantly in this chat that we're on, and she wants everyone to read it. So like, just gut reaction, you have to read The Blade Itself. And I was like, okay, cool. That is a book that actually was on my TBR based on her talking about it. So really, this is just me getting a further prompting to read something I was thinking about reading anyway. So there was that one. Then Bethany took a minute and said that she wanted me to read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Now, the story behind this is that this is a book that I have been resisting reading, essentially for like ideological or philosophical reasons, which maybe we'll get into more once we get to the vlog. But just for now, what you should know is that while I'm actually pretty sure that this is a book I'm going to like, just its project bothers me, the type of book that it is, and so that's why I was not planning on reading it. So essentially, Bethany's strategy here is sort of like, Mara, I know that you will like this book, so like, I'm gonna force you to read it. It was sort of like kind of take your medicine approach to the challenge, which I respect. I feel like that was a legitimate way to go. Amanda was sort of mulling for a while, and eventually, and her strategy was to think of a book that she loved, so like trying to think through some of her 5 stars, and she ended up picking Bird Box by Josh Malerman. Now, Bird Box is a book that I did not want to read. So of these 3 books, 2 of them are ones that I had made the decision I was not going to read and am now going to read, essentially because it just didn't sound like quite my cup of tea. I don't know, there was just something about the description of Bird Box that I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this. I do have Inspection by Josh Malerman that I thought that would be my first outing with him because it sounds more like up my alley. But that's what you picked, so that is what I am going to read. So I am going to read all 3 of these, even if I do not end up liking them. I am making a commitment right now that I am not going to DNF them. I'm going to get all the way through, and we're going to see what happens when I let 3, and these are 3 booktubers who know me really well, and I think all of them were trying to be nice. Like, all of them, I think, were trying to pick something that they loved and thought that I might enjoy. So, yeah, so we'll see how this goes. But now, I guess I will throw you to future me and to the vlog. Hey guys, welcome to Booktubers Pick My TBR vlog challenge. So, as I was talking about, I've got 3 books up on the docket. I've got Bird Box, which is what I've just downloaded from my library and I'm about to get started on. I've got Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I think is going to arrive today. And then I have The Blade Itself, which I am going to listen to as audio from Scribd. So, I'm about to start the Bird Box, not the Bird Box, just Bird Box. And this is a book that I had definitively decided I was not reading. And I don't totally know why. I think my challenge to myself in this reading process will be to understand why this book just based on the way it's talked about, and the description really was off-putting to me and something I like actively had made the decision not to read. So because like it's very well loved. A lot of people really, really like this book, and the movie was very popular. So I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see exactly like why it is that I just had sort of like a visceral, like it's not like I can tell you like, oh, I don't like XYZ trope that this book has. I just like viscerally was like, oh no, I don't want to read that. So we'll see how this goes. I'm about to dive in. This is Amanda from the Naughty Librarian's Pick. So let's see how I do with it. Hey guys, I'm back, and look what showed up. Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. So we've got that one ready to rumble. I think this, I don't know, I'm going to wait until I'm in the mood for something like kind of light, fun, rom-com-y. I've only got, I think, 1 or 2 other books like that on my TBR this month, so that mood will definitely strike. So I did make some progress on Bird Box. So far, I don't know that I've made a lot of progress in figuring out why I didn't want to read it. I will say that I am struggling quite a bit with the authorial voice. It is not my favorite, and I can't tell if that would be the case if I wasn't already apprehensive about it, or if I'm just like looking for things to not like. So I am trying to keep an open mind. I would say that I'm like not into it, but not mad at it, if that makes sense. Like I'm not like actively having a bad time. But I would also say that I'm not loving it. So I don't know. If I was going to rate it right now, I think I'm like the equivalent of 2 or 3 hours in. I would give it a 3-star, which is fine, but not great. So I don't know. We'll see. Like, again, I'm trying to expand my horizons and also understand what it was about this book that made me so trepidatious. So stay tuned. Hey guys, so I did go ahead and finish up Bird Box. I think that's where last we were. I was listening to the audio. I would recommend the audio, by the way. I think it was really well done. I think it grew on me. I do think I finally have named what it was about this book that that kind of like put me off of wanting to read it. And that is, it is a very high premise book that I think what was making me trepidatious about it was, is this a book? Is this not a novella or a movie, basically? And I think that is kind of where I've landed, is that I think that this would have been better served as a novella. Like, I think it would have been, like this, I could easily have seen being like a 4.5 or 5-star book for me if it had been a novella, if it had been a little shorter. I do think that this explores a lot of really interesting themes around like parenting and kind of like the decisions we make for our children and like what is a life worth preserving kind of thing, fear. Yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of interesting things happening in this. I just think it would have been more impactful if it had been a short story or a novella, or I would be, people were kind of flipping over the movie, and this is very cinematic. Like I can completely see this being a very, very good movie or really entertaining movie. So yeah, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars, I think, because I think some of the character piece of this didn't fully work for me. And like I said, I just think it probably should have been shorter, but I'm not mad I read it. And I'm glad that Amanda kind of pushed me into doing it, because now at least I know what all the hype is about. And yeah, so that was my audio pick that I just wrapped up. I did finally get Becoming by Michelle Obama from my library as audio, which I have been waiting on for, I shit you not, I think 5 months now. So that will be my next audio pick. After that, I will go to The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, which was Leanna's pick for me. And so that will be the next piece of audio that I will do for this challenge. At some point, I will work in this month Red, White, and Royal Blue. I probably should have read that as my 4th of July read. That was a fuck up on my part. But anyway, stay tuned. The challenge rolls on. Hey guys, so I was just going to tell you that I should be good and finish up Becoming today by Michelle Obama, but I'm not in the mood for memoir. I am in the mood for fantasy. So I think, whilst I go out and run some errands, that I am going to start The Blade Itself. So we will see how that goes. Stay tuned. Hey guys, checking in on The Blade Itself. So I'm a few chapters into the audiobook, and bitch is savage. Like this book, yeah, I mean, it's definitely grim dark. It's not as grim and as dark as I thought it could be, and only a few chapters in, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm really liking the audiobook. It took me a little bit to get into the narrator, but he won me over once he started imitating this like toothless dude. and like the way he communicated that I thought was very effective. And I'm also very into the like Inquisitor group that is going on in this world. So yeah, so far I'm definitely really into this. And like I'm actively looking forward to when I get to read it and listen to it. So like that's always a good sign. So yeah, so far I really like this. Hey folks. So I am still trying to get through the Blade itself. I had that lovely situation that always seems to happen where all of my library books came in at one time, and the majority of my library books these days tend to be audiobooks. So I've gotten derailed trying to read some of those. But I've been back into the Blade itself, and I really enjoy it. I don't think that this is going to be like an all-time fave. I'm thinking things continue the way that they are right now. Probably like a 4-star read. But I think that the character of Glotka, I think that might be how you say it. Sorry, I'm listening and not reading the name. But is one of the most interesting I've ever seen in a fantasy book. I think there's some really interesting metaphors around what violence does to people, what war does to people. I think that this is a series that takes those kinds of questions really seriously. The title, The Blade itself, is sort of the kind of same idea of when you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail kind of a thing, of like violence begetting violence. And I really like Glotka as this broken war hero. I think that's such an interesting idea of like what happens to somebody who survives torture and is like horribly physically scarred, but also like what does that do to them as a person? I mean, he's a horrible person. Like, let's be clear. Like, he's a sack of shit. He's scary. He's bad. But he's incredibly sympathetic, I think, because he's incredibly human. So the character work in this, I'm very impressed with. Logan Nine Fingers, that's good stuff too. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's just, I don't know that it's like one of my all-time faves. But yeah, I'm really glad that Liene pushed me to read this because it's a thought-provoking read, and I don't know, I may continue in the series. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, I need to wrap that up. I am still working on it, but it's been a while since I checked it, which you guys probably won't know because I'm just cutting these different pieces of footage together. But I know that it has been a while, so I wanted to touch base on the Blade itself. Guys, I am finally done with the Blade itself. It has taken me a while just because I had a bunch of other books, like audiobooks, come from the library, so I kept getting interrupted. But I really, really liked it. I think that's probably evident from the other updates I've done. I can't even really remember what I said in those because it's been so long, but I really enjoyed it. I'm kind of torn about how to rate it because I think this book is probably better than either of the books in the Poppy War series, but I liked the Poppy War series books a little bit more. And the reason I compare them is just because they're both like grim, dark like they're probably the grimmest, darkest books I've read. I think more so than even Game of Thrones. I've only read the first book in Game of Thrones, but so I don't know. I mean, I'm struggling between a 4 and a 4.5. I suspect that if I'd been able to read it more straight the way through, I probably would have liked this book even more. And so that makes me think, I don't know. I think I'll probably settle on a 4 for right now, but like with an asterisk, and I may come back and revisit that rating eventually. So I'm going to leave it that way for right now. We'll see how it ultimately ends up, but I definitely really liked it. And I think I can totally see why Liene likes it so much. I can totally see why she forced me to read it. And we can definitely say her intentions were for me to read a book that she loves and thinks that I would really love. So that means I only have one book left, Red, White, and Royal Blue. So I just need to find some time to slot that in. So stay tuned for that. Okay, guys, it is time for me to read the last of these books, and that is Red, White, and Royal Blue. So I think I said, I'm not sure that I've ever actually told you what my trepidation here is. So here it is. Here's my moment. I also want to be clear before I say this, that the reason it's trepidation is that I have mixed feelings about this. And because they are mixed, I've kind of just in general landed on this issue of like, there's so many things that I would like to read that I don't want to have this part of the way I think about things engaged when I'm reading. Like, I've just opted out of having this internal struggle. So that being said, the converse of that is if this doesn't bother you, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. This is just a personal stance and like a personal, like, I feel really ambivalent about this, so I just generally avoid it. And that is, I kind of as a guiding principle do not read romances, a romance genre, I should be specific, because I'm fine with like literary, whatever, like mystery, but I don't read romance genre romances that are male written by females. And Casey McQuiston is queer. She is a woman, but she is queer. So she is like a part of the LGBT community. It's not that. For me, I read a couple male romance genre books sort of at the beginning of my romance genre journey. And there was always something in the gaze that felt like it was too much being written to a female gaze. So, and this is not a one-to-one comparison. Very clear. This is an analogy to kind of get at this sort of feeling that it gave me. The same way that much porn that is that is filmed, that is ostensibly lesbian, that is female, has a feeling to it that it is not for lesbians, it is for straight men. And I feel that like of the sampling of romance genre, male romances that I read, it felt like straight women writing about gay men for other straight women. And it just created a author to reader to character dynamic that was confusing for me and made me think too much. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to think this much when I'm reading romance for the most part, usually. I mean, like, I definitely have that mode. You guys know I did a thesis on, like, I can think about romances more deeply, but I just choose not to for the most part. And I'm uncomfortable with that dynamic. So in general, I do not pick up male romances that are between two men, but written by a woman. That said, in this particular instance, I'm not as worried about it because Casey McQuiston, like I said, is a part of the LGBT community, so I'm hoping that maybe she'll bring a more sensitive lens to it. All that being said, I kind of created that as a general guiding principle / rule for myself. I am breaking it for this book. I'm hopeful that it's not going to bite me in the butt, and I don't want to be the one person who's like, I couldn't enjoy this because of that. Like, I'm sincerely hoping that that's not my experience. And it's been a long day. I'm hot and sweaty, as you can probably tell. And I would like to just enjoy something light and fun. So let's do this. Okay, so I plowed right on through this evening, which it was a very enjoyable little romp. I'm between a 3.5 and a 4 on this, but not for the reasons that I thought that I might be. Because in terms of what I was talking about earlier of like being nervous about just sort of the what the gaze felt like, I guess, basically. Fun. Gaze, Gaze versus Gays in the context of this book. Anyway, sorry. In terms of feeling like maybe this would be kind of off in terms of like the portrayal of a male romance, that I thought was handled so well. Like the only time I've read a male romance genre book that I was like, oh, like this didn't, like I never had a moment of feeling weird about that part. So like thumbs up there. I actually thought that this is much steamier than I thought it might be, and I thought that was handled really well, actually. Really, the thing that keeps this from being 4 stars for me, I hate third person present as the point of view. Like, I know that, so like, I think some people hate second person where it's like, you are walking down the stairs, you are going on a boat. Some people hate that. That doesn't really bother me, and usually people say they don't like it because they think it either takes them out of the story or it feels pretentious. That's how I feel about third person present, because this reads like, Alex is opening up the door. Alex is seeing Henry standing there. Henry is thinking, wow, Alex looks great. Like, I just can't, it really bugs me. And I would have moments where there was more dialogue, and so I'd be like getting in the groove, and then we'd hit a narrative little bit, and that would throw me back. So I just didn't like that. I thought the parts of this book that really shone were like the email bits and like the texting bits. I thought that was really well handled. I like that this reads like an actual like young couple in 2019. I don't know. There's just a lot to like in here. I totally see why it is, finding an audience. For me, very charming, but I think not the best romance I've read this year or in general, though I think I tend to be a little bit of a hard sell on new adultish type romance, so maybe take that into consideration. But anyway, I can totally see why Bethany wanted to make me read this, because I can see why she thought that I was really gonna like this, and I did. I enjoyed it. I think 3.5 stars seems right. Yeah, I think that seems right. So anyway, oh, I dropped that, so there we go. I will meet you guys back to wrap everything up, because the reading part of this is now over. So yeah, I'm gonna go to bed, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay guys, we have come to the end of the road of this little mini challenge that I did, where I let 3 other booktubers pick my TBR. Now that I'm actually to the point where I've read these books, kind of going back and thinking through what the sort of rationale for each of these choices were, and how successful each of them were, and what their sort of mission statement with it was. So if I had to force rank these, I'm trying to decide if I would rank Bird Box or Red, White, and Royal Blue higher. I guess in terms of just like pure my own enjoyment, I ended up giving both of those books 3.5 stars, but I think I probably enjoyed this one a little bit more. I was more between a 3.5 and a 4 for this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and say Bird Box was probably my least favorite, just by a hair, but I still enjoyed it. It was 3.5 stars, and Amanda's rationale in picking it was that it was one of her most recent 5-star books, so she wanted to pick something that she really loved and give it to me to read because she thought that I would like it. And you know, it's something that's been really hot this year because of that Netflix adaptation, etc. So her intentions were like, I think, give me something that she enjoyed, that she thought there was a reason I might enjoy it, and was like kind of a hot book. And I'm glad that I got to read it and have an opinion on it, just because it has been so sort of referenced in the zeitgeist recently. I think for me, where I landed was, I think it would have been better if it had been shorter, and it read very much to me like this is meant to be a movie. And interestingly, because I just finished last night actually a different Malerman, which was Inspection. And this is also a very high concept book. I actually think this is less successful than Bird Box. This made me appreciate Bird Box even more. Even though I would say in terms of like the high concept, I prefer this high concept to Bird Box's. I think what it's made me realize is that Josh Malerman really is a very cinematic writer in a lot of ways. Like, he has big ideas that sound like an exciting kind of movie synopsis. So yeah, it's just interesting to kind of think about him in that context in terms of like sort of what his project is as a writer, as he has sort of big ideas, and then I think his execution is not as good as his ideas. That's sort of been my takeaway so far from reading him. And I think both books I read from him so far would have benefited tremendously from being shorter. So yeah, I don't know. It almost makes me wonder, I wonder if he has a short story collection, and if he doesn't, I would be very interested to read like a series of novellas or like a short story collection from him, because I think I'd probably enjoy his work even more in that context. But all that being said, I did enjoy my time with Bird Box. I listened to it as audio, and I thought it worked really well as audio, so I would recommend that. And I guess I would put that as third, but right there with it is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is one that, like you guys saw, I was really not sure how I'd feel about it. Now that I've read it, I think what I would say, how to talk about this. So the things that I was worried about this book, I think mostly didn't end up being a problem for me, in terms of that idea of the female gaze being superimposed on a male-male romance genre book. This is my favorite male-male romance genre book I've read, and it has reopened me up to the idea of possibly reading more in that genre in the future. However, that being said, I do still think, because this is a new adult romance, there is something a little off here in terms of the dynamic. Like, I guess would I say this is my favorite gay love story I've read? No. It's not my favorite male-male relationship that I've ever seen portrayed, but I do think that this was really, it avoided a lot of the pitfalls that I've encountered in this genre before. And I appreciated that this is a very sexy book, but it feels sexy in a romantic way, but also something I appreciate about this, and something that I think can be a pitfall in romance genre books in general, is that there can be sort of a simplification or a flattening of sexual attraction. And it kind of can get boiled down to like his rippling muscles, or like her luscious boobs, or whatever. Like, it can get very sort of almost like stereotyped in what people are sexually attracted to. But I think this captures very well, like when you're sort of in the first flush of attraction to someone, and how, you know, of course, like, you know, there's more obvious things that you're attracted to, but there's also like that, you know, oh, like that freckle on your hip, or like that, just like the little things that are specific to that person, and not just like you are a sex object to me, basically. And that's what makes it romantic, I think. So I really like it when romance genre books are able to do that well. And I think that this met that criteria in terms of like, I felt like each of them were specifically attracted to each other, and that made it romantic. So all that to say, I'm glad that Bethany forced me to read this, going back to kind of the rationale of why she picked this for me. I think Bethany picked this as like, I'm going to give you something that is good for you. Like, I'm going to make you read something that I know you don't want to read because I think it will be for your benefit. Like, I think it's sort of like a dose of medicine for you, basically. And to that end, you know, I am glad that she made me read this. I don't love this the way that she does, or the way that a lot of people do, but I respect it. I'm glad to know kind of what the conversation around this book is about. I will say, I should mention, I think a lot of people find the alternative political fantasy in this something that they enjoy. I actually really actively did not enjoy that, and probably that was part of what made this hard for me to read. Just context-wise, I read this a little bit more than a week after the 2 shootings in El Paso and Dayton, in the context of a lot of, I mean, our news cycle here in the US and politics is pretty intense, and has been for the last few years, and it is pretty exhausting. But that particular incident really hit home for me. It was a real dark moment. And I think that for me, this like fantasy of like, what if none of the last few years had happened and we're on a totally different political projection, didn't feel escapist and fun to me. It felt sad. Like, it made me more sad about the reality of our political situation. So for me, that wasn't something that was fun and enjoyable. It was something that kind of bummed me out every time it came up in this book. So that was probably also why I didn't love this the way some people do. And then I think I also mentioned how much I hate third person present. So all those things combined, I think, kind of left me not loving this. And I take issue with the idea that this is the best romance that came out this year. I've seen some people say that. I just think this has been a particularly strong year for romance. And of course, this is a taste thing. Your mileage may vary. For me, I would strongly not say that I think this is the best romance that has come out this year. There have been a lot of really good ones, and I just straight up don't think this is the best one. So anyway, but I would put this a second, and I am glad that she made me read it. And like I was saying, Bird Box and Red, White, and Royal Blue were kind of duking it out there right there together for second or third. But my clear winner in this was The Blade itself. I think I mentioned that I think if I had been able to read this in a more focused fashion, I may have ended up giving this a 4.5 star, but I landed on a 4. That being said, I really enjoyed it. The gallows humor in this is quite dark, but I think really well executed. And I think that the world, I think, you know, the thing that held me back from loving this the way that I have some other books recently in the fantasy genre is that I don't know that I find the world that interesting or unique. To be fair, this is an older series. I think it's coming up on like 15 years old now. So, you know, I think that it was probably written in a time where world uniqueness in terms of some of the cultural references probably wasn't at as much of a premium as it is now. So to be fair to it, I don't know that like the market it was written in was really asking for that, but that is something that I personally enjoy. And I think that may have been kind of what held me back from just like loving this. But I think that the characters are some of the strongest that I've read in fantasy, especially the character of Glokta. I can never remember if it's Glokta because I listened to it. But that character in particular I found really compelling, really interesting. And I loved the idea of like when essentially his backstory being the like kind of strapping, strong young man who is essentially completely broken, and like what does that do to him afterwards. Yeah, I just think that he's a fascinating character. So I'm really glad that Liene kind of pushed me to read this, because this has been on my TBR just based on how much she loves this book. And in terms of sort of her motives in making me read it, I'm not sure if this is her all-time favorite book, but I would say that this series is like a top 5 for her. Like, she absolutely loves this and like talks about it all the time and forces it on people all the time. So I think that in that sense, her motive being like, I really want you to read one of my all-time favorite books and think that you will like it, hope that you will like it, and it will give us something new to connect over with, I think was totally spot on, a good strategy for recommending things to me. Actually, all four of us in this little chat are now trying to get through it. So I think Amanda's reading it right now, and then I think it's on Bethany's TBR sometime soon. So it will be a new book that all four of us have read and can talk about, so that will be fun. But yeah, I'm glad that she pushed me to read it. I will definitely continue in the trilogy. I've actually ordered like a nice hardback version, like little trilogy of it, that will be coming in from the UK sometime soon, because I like their little hardback version of it. So yeah, I definitely will continue. And I think what I will probably do is whenever I decide to read the second book, I will go back and reread the first one. I wonder if upon doing that, it will become a 4.5 star for me, because I do think I suffered for not being able to just read it through. So all that to say, this plus Bird Box and The Blade Itself were my little challenge. And I am very surprised that all of these ladies chose to be so nice to me. I was expecting at least one person to really try to stick it to me, because I told them they had carte blanche to do whatever they wanted. I'm not really sure what trying to stick it to me would look like for me, just because I do have pretty wide reading taste, but I don't know, maybe if they'd try to make me read a super angsty historical or something like that, I probably wouldn't have been too excited about that. And I guess, you know, I wasn't excited to read this, but I think Bethany didn't do it with a malicious intent, so I don't know. Anyway, I enjoyed the experiment of letting 3 of my friends here on BookTube pick my TBR, and I think I may try to do this again. I've got an idea of 3 people who I think I would be interested for them to pick a book for me, just because I could see it pushing me more out of my comfort zone. So in the future, maybe next year, I may ask if they will consider partnering with me to do that. So anyway, that will do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had fun vlogging a little bit on this one, and I enjoyed the challenge overall. So yeah, let me know what you thought about any of these books below. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all of that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. I hope you guys are having an absolutely lovely day, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye.